Good evening. Welcome to TCM. I'm Ben Mankiewicz. 30 years ago today, April 14th, 1994, with the flip of a switch in Times Square, Turner Classic Movies joined the cable TV universe. Standing there with the man the channel is named after, Ted Turner, along with several stars from Hollywood's golden age, was the first face of the network, Robert Osborne. With his vast knowledge of Hollywood history and relationships with so many of the people who made that history, Robert was the perfect fit to fulfill our first mission statement, to show the greatest movies of all time, all the time. In honor of what Robert did to make TCM what it is today, we've been celebrating our 30th anniversary with some of his most memorable introductions and conversations. Later tonight, we'll have our usual franchises, Silent Sunday Night and TCM Imports, but they will include introductions Robert co-hosted with guest programmers, Sally Field and Drew Barrymore, respectively. We'll also have our 20th anniversary tribute to Robert, held during the 2014 TCM Classic Film Festival. Up next, though, we're kicking off the evening with the first movie ever broadcast on TCM, and by extension, the first movie Robert introduced. It's the Academy Award winner for Best Picture of 1939, produced by David O. Selznick and starring Vivien Leigh and Clark Gable, Gone with the Wind. Here's Robert Osborne, actually taking the stairs as he presents this classic. I've been a host since 2003, and I only got to use the stairs a couple of times. I do find it interesting that Robert's stairs had a banister for him to hold onto as he walked. Mine had no banister, and I always felt like I was about to fall. Perhaps I was missing a subtle message from the company in that. All right, back on point. Here, with the first movie introduction in TCM's 30-year history, is the singular Robert Osborne.
Hi, welcome to Turner Classic Movies. I'm Robert Osborne. I'm going to be your host right here as we present some of the best, the finest films ever made, 24 hours a day. We're going to be drawing not only from the great film libraries of MGM and Warner Brothers, but also from other outstanding film catalogs. So come join us and see not only great films and stars from the past, but also films from recent years featuring some of our newest and most watchable stars. And along the way, I'm going to be sharing some of my own memories of Hollywood, things I've seen and heard as a columnist with The Hollywood Reporter, things I've also discovered through personal friendships with some of the people who made the movies we all love. I think you're going to love Turner Classic Movies, and we're all going to be doing our best to keep you with us. Of course, there was really only one film that would do for the debut of Turner Classic Movies. It's a film most people would agree is probably the best movie ever made, certainly the most enduring, Gone with the Wind. Gone with the Wind. Boy, you say that name and it conjures up all sorts of images. Beautiful, headstrong Scarlett O'Hara, dashing Rhett Butler, Tara, the burning of Atlanta, the performances of Vivien Leigh and Clark Gable and Olivia de Havilland, Leslie Howard, the wonderful Hattie McDaniel. And never forget the man who brought it to the screen, producer David O. Selznick. Boy, Gone with the Wind is the stuff of which a legend was made. Nominated for 13 Academy Awards, it won 8 of them, including Best Picture of the Year. It's been seen by more people than any other film in history, and I don't think anyone who's seen it has ever come away untouched or unmoved. You know, a poll was once taken about Gone with the Wind, and guess what single element of the film was the one that attracted people the most? Not the epic size, not the Civil War background, not even the great performances. It was the love story which people said they enjoyed most about the film. But it's also a great story of survival, of course, survival in the face of war and devastation. Gone with the Wind was first published as a book in 1936. David Selznick bought the film rights for $50,000, a very tidy sum in those days. 3 years later, it was premiered in Atlanta on December 16, 1939. It was not an easy movie to make. There were countless screenwriters involved, including Sidney Howard and F. Scott Fitzgerald, even David Selznick himself. George Cukor started directing the film, but was soon fired, and he was replaced by Victor Fleming. And then Victor Fleming suffered a nervous breakdown, and another director, Sam Wood, took over. But it eventually was finished, and it certainly worked, and it worked beautifully. It was Selznick's baby, and it was also his crowning achievement. David Selznick made many films after Gone with the Wind, even some great ones like Rebecca and The Third Man, but boy, he never surpassed Gone with the Wind. In my opinion, no one has ever surpassed it. And here it is, exactly as it was shown in 1939, complete with an overture, an intermission, and intermission music, and also complete with the magic that, well, never been equaled. To properly introduce you to Turner Classic Movies, we're very proud to present the one, the only, Gone with the Wind.
At the 2019 TCM Classic Film Festival, our good friend and frequent collaborator, writer and historian Donald Bogle, moderated a panel discussion called The Complicated Legacy of Gone with the Wind. It was an extension of TCM's Reframed series, where we recognize the importance of providing context for Gone with the Wind and other classics with problematic characterizations and storylines. These conversations may seem like something Americans and film fans have started grappling with only in recent years, but both Margaret Mitchell's novel Gone with the Wind and David O. Selznick's 1939 film sparked significant controversy in the 1930s because of the story's deeply troubling glorification of the antebellum South that blissfully ignored the brutal realities of slavery. Still, there's no doubting that Gone with the Wind remains one of the defining pictures of Hollywood's golden age, a remarkable piece of filmmaking filled with indelible Oscar-winning performances, including Vivien Leigh and Hattie McDaniel. It was the first film we aired on TCM when the network began on April 14th, 1994. And here again is TCM's first host, Robert Osborne, reflecting on some of the stars of the film.
That is a great movie. And you know, to me, one of the miracles of Gone with the Wind is that it's still as powerful as it was 55 years ago when it was made. Interestingly, only Leslie Howard, who played Ashley Wilkes, was unaware of how famous the film eventually became. He died in a 1943 plane accident while Gone with the Wind was still playing first-run engagements. And it's also curious, but of the four stars of the film, Clark Gable, Vivien Leigh, Leslie Howard, Olivia de Havilland, only Olivia de Havilland as Melanie dies in the movie. Yet today, she's the only one of the four still with us. Olivia de Havilland is now 77. She lives in Paris. I speak with her quite often, and she's in very good health and good cheer. And not surprisingly, she still gets an enormous amount of mail about Melanie Hamilton and about Gone with the Wind. I never got to meet Clark Gable, but I did have the pleasure of meeting Vivien Leigh several times. Once when she was in L.A. performing in a play called Duel of Angels, I went backstage to say hello, and she was just saying goodbye to a fellow who it turned out had been one of the extras in Gone with the Wind years and years before. Well, after he left, she turned to me and she said, "Gone with the Wind, you know, that was a rather good film, wasn't it?" As if the idea had never really occurred to her before. Yes, Vivien Leigh, it was rather a good film.
Rather a good film. That was Robert Osborne concluding a screening of the first movie we showed on TCM, Gone with the Wind, April 14th, 1994. It's rather amazing to think Olivia de Havilland lived another 27 years after TCM signed on the air. She died in 2020 at the age of 104. Coming up, we continue our 30th anniversary celebration with a special edition of Silent Sunday Night from Jacqueline Stewart. She's presenting The Wind from 1928 with an introduction delivered by Robert Osborne and Sally Field back in 2015. That is next on TCM.
Next on TCM, The Wind. Then Robert Osborne's 20th anniversary tribute. And later, Diabolique. TCM's getting away with murder tonight.